And so, of course, at the age of 13, you know, so cool. And he kind of looked like he had seen too much in the war, except he really hadn't been in a war, but still, that was sort of the look he gave, okay? But still, he was like, oh, to die for, it's so cool and so amazing. So I'm riding down the street and I'm a cop, so of course, you know, you can't be a cop without a siren. So I'm going, as I'm riding down the street, and I cut up the Anderson's driveway, and there's the Anderson boy right there looking at me. Cut the siren. So I pedal back shamefacedly. Oh man, I'm so embarrassed. Okay, I'm done. So that's a bad enough story. But that's not the whole story. So fade out. The rest of my day happens. Fade back in. It's about 9:30 at night, and on this summer night, that's about dusk. I'm sitting in the living room of our home, and I hear a siren outside, a real siren, not some weird kid riding down the street. I hear a real siren, and I think, you know, I would like to hear my dog howl. And we had a little tiny black dog, his name was Seamus, and sometimes we lived right on the route to Toledo Hospital, and so sometimes when the sirens were going, he would howl. But he didn't always howl, but it was so cute when he howled. We liked to get him to howl. And you know a good way to get a dog to howl? You howl first. So we would go to Seamus, we would kind of nudge him, and then we'd go, Seamus, oh, and he would howl, and so then there'd be a trio, you and the dog and the siren all howling. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, boy, I'd really like to hear Seamus howl. Now, in those days, most dogs just roamed free. You know, there were no leash laws. You had to watch out for dog poop, or as we called it, dog doo, because nobody cleaned up after their dogs. It was just, you know, a fact of life. You just dealt with it. But for some weird reason, we were obeying the leash laws, and we had Seamus on a leash in front of the house. We had all these evergreen bushes, and typically he would lie in the bushes, invisible to all, and just absorb their shade. But I knew he was there. And so I turned on the front porch light, I leaned out, and I went, "Arr!" And I looked, and there was the Anderson boy walking right down the street. So, of course, I immediately drove back in the house, turned off the light, walked away, you know. And the thing I like, when my brother tells the story, he always reenacts me darting back into the house. Because we love to think, what the hell did the Anderson boy think of all this? You know, because I should say, by the time I got down to the Andersons, Renee, who I was chasing, was like 10 houses away. So I'm just riding all alone. And that night, he's walking down the street, and all of a sudden, oh, the porch light comes on. Oh, okay. Some random girl leans out and howls, and then quickly darts back in. So I guess he just sort of thought, you know, well, gee, why shouldn't she just, you know, the moon is coming out. Why shouldn't she just lift up her head and join the chorus? The end.
Before I get to my next guest, I promised Jenna Grassball that I'd make this public announcement. If any lady is missing a pink animal printed bra, it can be found in the lost and found. This is totally true. Our next guest is our lone 2L. He's no stranger to the stage. Let's hear it up for Tim Myers.
Oh, wow, entrance music. Yeah, let's hear it for Michael Abramowitz. I've been looking forward to this all week. It's about as punk rock as I get to feel talking shit about law school in front of students and faculty. So, of course, then I go home and continue to study for finals. So that's what it pays. Moritz comedy night. I think it's awesome that we're doing a comedy set in the most despair-ridden place I can possibly think of. I mean, it's all, like, you walk down the halls of Drinko, and it's just like, half the people look like they're ready to have a panic attack. It smells like stale pizza. You walk into the men's restroom, it looks like some sort of fly holocaust or something is going on. I think Professor Quigley is working on an amicus brief on that as we speak. I'm taking professional responsibility now, and we just had our substance abuse lecture. And a statistic that really stuck with me from that substance abuse lecture is that apparently 40% of all law students that leave law school have a diagnosable mental illness. What they don't tell you in that statistic is that the other 60% are cyborgs. So I was signing up for classes recently, and that was depressing in itself. It's like, you don't really sign up for classes that you want to take, you just kind of sign up for the classes that you feel sound practical. Like, I'm taking Civil Procedure 2 next semester because Civil Procedure 1 left me clamoring for more. And it's just like the classes themselves, it's like, they always teach this like boring, meaningless stuff, and they never really get into what you want to talk about. Like, take contracts, for example. Like, you spend 2 days talking about whether or not a chicken is a fryer or a broiler, and then you only spend 5 minutes discussing the legal significance of a blood oath. And that should be a class unto itself, because I think that sounds awesome. But no, really, I am optimistic. I'm really hoping that law school will enable me to work in a job someday. I'm trying to get a summer job, but I feel like no one's even looking at my resume, so I started doing like 2 truths and 1 lie on my resume. Just to see if anyone will notice. You're like, my interests. I'm an avid Milwaukee Brewers fan, truth. Former college radio host, truth. Editor-in-chief of the Ohio State Law Journal, clearly false. I don't think it's fair for me to blame everything on law school. I was messed up before I went into law school. I've been living alone for almost like 4 years now, and I'm just starting to realize that I only own 1 wine glass. And the thing is, to be honest, I don't even use that. Like, I would rather just drink out of the bottle, or better yet, a jug. Because jug drinking is the coolest. I think jug drinking is one of my hobbies that makes me sound the most recreationally homeless. I'm thinking about also starting trash can fires and reading from the Book of Revelations to strangers on the tube bus. I eat late at night. I have a bad habit of that. One of my favorites is bagel bites. Any bagel bites fans in the house? Yeah! What I've learned from eating bagel bites is just because you can eat pizza anytime doesn't mean you should. Pizza in the morning, pizza in the evening, and pizza at supper time. Someone please teach this man how to cook. Another thing I like to do, I like to get drunk and go grocery shopping. Because when you grocery shop while drunk, it kind of feels like playing supermarket sweep. The only problem is you wake up and you don't know what the hell you just bought. Like, my what did I do last night moments are when I wake up next to a pile of oatmeal cream pies. If any of the aforementioned jokes didn't clue you in, I'm single. Look out, ladies, look out. I tried online dating for a while, but I tried OkCupid, and I honestly think that that site tries to make it as shame-filled as possible. Like, they ask you these questions when you first sign up, and one of the first ones I ever got was, are you more horny or more lonely? That's not even a joke, that actually happened, but it puts you on the defensive right away. It's like, no, I'm a well-adjusted 25-year-old, and my mother tells me I'm handsome. I was looking at profiles, and I came across this one, and it was a couple that was looking for a threesome. And I knew that because that's what it said in their About Me section. But what was weird about it was they went on to list their favorite food, music, and movies, which doesn't make any sense unless they've somehow found a way to incorporate Coldplay, Fight Club, and chimichangas into their sexual routine. I think the internet is actively fucking us all up though, but like it just hasn't been around long enough for us to realize it, kind of like plastic or something like that. Like, I got on Instagram pretty recently, and like, it's gotten to the point where I take regular pictures and I'm just disappointed by them, which, like, I feel like speaks a lot for my general dissatisfaction with the world. It's just not like sepia-toned or oversaturated enough for me. Another thing, there was the Supreme Court arguments recently, and everyone changed their profile pictures to that red equal sign, which is cool. Like, it's great that you're speaking your opinion, and I'm totally pro-gay marriage, but when you think about it, it's like people used to get sprayed by fire hoses for saying what they believed in, and now if I actively disagree with what you're saying, all I can do is not click the like button on your profile picture change. This is the most boring civil rights movement ever. Thank you. I've never had anyone applaud for something I've said. Another thing, everyone is talking about how like violent video games are the cause of violence in society. But if you think about it, it's like old video games are way more fucked up than new ones. Like you play a game like Gears of War or something like that, there are all these like horrifying creatures coming after you, and you're really just like killing them in self-defense. And then you think of like Super Mario Brothers, where it's just these cute little guys that just sort of waddle around. And the only way they can hurt you is if you should just happen to bump into them. And yet I remember being a kid and just actively killing everything in sight. Like, what does that say about the human condition? You realize that every time that Mario falls off a cliff, another Koopa Troopa gets to go home and tuck his kids in at night. I'm not used to this many applause breaks. Jump over too many abysses, and the abysses jump into you. That is Friedrich Nietzsche on the Super Mario Brothers. That's as highbrow as this comedy set is going. I did a show last week. It was at a fraternity house, and I was thinking back on it, like I really don't have that many interactions with fraternity people. I remember my first week of college, I was walking around by the Union, and this guy came up to me, and he had these two pop collars, both were neon, and he's like, "Hey man, do you want to get drunk and laid every night?" And I said, "Every night?" It's like, what about the nights where I just want to watch Law and Order marathons? Is there any way I could join your fraternity part-time? I'm willing to compromise and get drunk while watching Law and Order. Are there any fraternities on campus where I can get drunk, laid, and watch Law and Order reruns every night? Because I think I would be on board for that. So here's something you guys might not know about me. I grew up in the town with the most churches per capita of anywhere in the world. It's true, it's in the Guinness Book of World Records. And it's weird growing up in a religious town when you're not that religious. It's like, I didn't even believe in God until I'd seen the speedboat scene in Face Off. This is how I gauge a crowd based on how much they love Face Off. And I was in a coffee shop because where you have a lot of churches, you have a lot of coffee shops because caffeine is the only acceptable drug if you're a Christian. And there was this couple that was having this conversation. There was these girls that are having like this Christian single support group or something like that. And I was listening to their conversation, and it was awesome. And so these girls were like, "Hey, so you went out with Brad last night?" "Yeah." "And I was in his room, and I sat in his bed." "Yeah, really? Tell me your feet stayed on the floor." "Yes, my feet stayed on the floor." And it struck me as odd, because usually I thought like the dividing line of sin would involve some sort of exchange of bodily fluids. Like, what must her dad have said to her to instill that in her? Like, "Barbara, you need to sit down. There are going to be times where you will be tempted, and you will be in boys' rooms, and you will sit on their beds. But if you do, make sure that your feet stay on the floor. That way, if you do have sex, the sperm will fall out of your vagina." That's correct. All right, guys, that's all I got. You guys are listening.
And I can't figure out why so many of us are single on stage. Our next guest is making his return to the stage after last year's debut. FYI, this guest let me see his script ahead of time, and I just want to let my mom know that I'm a big boy and I can handle some of this. I mean, I'm not physically big, but, you know, metaphorically. Let's hear it up for Stephen Mobo.
Thank you. I'm not here tonight to tell jokes. I'm here to roast Michael Abramowitz. Here he is. Let's give it up for him. Woo! Here he is. I didn't actually plan on performing tonight, but as any of you who know Abramowitz can attest, once he gets excited about something, he will just not shut the hell up about it. I describe him as Gollum-esque. You know, this show is most certainly precious Hobbinsons. I'm seeing some confused looks. Is Gollum still in? I mean, I know that the movie came out not too long ago. I was going back and forth between Gollum and Lord Gold and Family Guy. I didn't know which one better describe it. But really, I'm just here to kill some time while Berman gets his makeup done and his head polished. Talk about letting fame go to your head. I know some people are a little hypersensitive these days. So, if you're one of those people, maybe live, like stand-up comedy isn't for you. But to clarify, because I'm going to be dropping a few hard J's, calling someone a Jew who is in fact a Jew is not a racial slur. To me, the word Jewish is superfluous unless you're talking about an object or the quality of being Jewish. A person is a Jew. If anything, calling someone Jewish implies that you're not certain about it. Who will you be there? 5-ish, 6-ish? How sure are you? I'm sure. So when I call someone a Jew, it's because I have no doubt about his faith. Which brings me to my guest of honor this evening. Many of you will doubtless recognize Abramowitz from his leading role of bespectacled Jew in your class. Unless, of course, you're in Dean Michael's Crim Pro class, in which case you'll recognize Abramowitz for his supporting role as second bespectacled Jew. As a side note, you may recognize me for my role of asshole in front row of your class who's always got something to say. What, Michael? What do you want me to tell Zach Lyon? I can't tell him to do that. He can't do that to himself. Why? Because it's anatomically impossible and true. I want to tell you all a little story about Abramowitz. You've seen the new comedy night posters with Abramowitz, you know, the ones that tastefully make fun of the language problem. Well, that wasn't the initial draft. Quiet, I want to tell the story. The first plan was for him to have his photo taken in his boxer shorts. They had to do 2 shoots because apparently he just loves being photographed without his pants on. Luckily, we were all spared that photo split. But that's really not the funny part of the story. You know, we all like to play practical jokes on one another, especially Abramowitz. Well, after this tight shoot, he goes in the corner to change, and he turns around and starts screaming his head off. He's got the tip of his, shall we say, schmeckle in the cap of a big pen. For those of you who aren't know, schmeckel's the Yiddish word for dick. Here's the real joke. This guy, he's such a prankster. It wasn't hot at all. There was plenty of room. But seriously, none of us would be here tonight if not for him. Because, as I said, he wouldn't leave us the hell alone until we agreed to perform. So let's hear it for Abramowitz. A man so chicken-legged that if he was still alive, Cass Elliot would have choked to death on him. It's like nobody here has heard of the Mamas and the Papas. I'm begging you to listen to some quality music. I'm sick of hearing about Justin Bieber and Lady Gaga and people shopping at a thrift store to buy my grandfather's clothes. It's all bullshit. I'll have you know that my grandfather was a nudist. He didn't even wear clothes. But back to Abramowitz, a man who, under the ring name El Chupacabra, became the first Jewish American to win the Mexican heavyweight boxing championship. Michael Abramowitz, a man who once killed a full-grown grizzly bear, armed with only a Japanese throwing star of David. Michael Abramowitz, a man so Jewish that even at his own roast, he saves a spot for Elijah. Michael Abramowitz, a man so thin that he regularly calls up the crypt keeper for advice on how to put on muscle mass. Michael Abramowitz, a man so Jewish that Elie Wiesel regularly calls him up to ask for advice on how to make people feel guilty. Michael Abramowitz, a man so cheap that in class he can't even pay attention. Michael Abramowitz, a man so Jewish that his very existence is a well-deserved middle finger in the face of the now-defunct Third Reich. Michael Abramowitz, a man so Jewish that he regularly erects arbitrary fences around our Palestinian classmates. I kid. There's no bigger friend to Israel than me. I once gave $5 to the Jewish Anti-Defamation League, and I have not been able to get off their mailing list ever since. As a side note, St. Jude's Children's Hospital is a great charity. They do great work. And if you're going to give a donation to those people, make sure it's a large one. In the course of a year, they've sent me mailings with calendars, with memo pads, with address books, not to mention postage. There is no way my $5 went to anything but sending me shit to ask for more money. I'm like, screw it. The next time, I'm just going to give $5 to the next sick kid I see. You know, cut out the middleman. So I've been up to that. I've also been trying internet dating recently. And by recently, I mean continuously for the past 3 years. These days, I only do the free dating sites, though, so it's really not surprising that it's not working out. You know, you get what you pay for, which in my case is nothing, so I get nothing. I gotta say, some of the interests of these women that they list, I just don't get it. They got like boozing and chilling and mudding. What the hell is mudding? Is that some kind of hillbilly thing? What's called the gerunds? Can these people, you know, not do anything in the past tense? I've begun to learn that to appeal to anybody you really want to meet, you have to start lying about yourself, or at least really stretch the truth. For example, I list nature walking, which is true if you consider nature walking spotting rats while I walk through my parking lot on the way to Moritz. Or travel, which is when I watch a marathon of the Travel Channel. Or dining out, which is going to Wendy's counts, right? Because that's out. You have to understand, though, that all of this stuff is infinitely more interesting than the stuff I actually spend my time doing, which is reading and writing stuff that has to do with the law. That'll put anybody's irritated. 3 times out of 10, you go to meet the young lady, and she's actually a 3 out of 10. I'm no model myself, but damn, sometimes a picture really isn't worth 1,000 words. I just need a moment. I'm just so goddamn lonely. Still, things could be worse. Michael Bromwitz over here signed up for J-Date. They paired him up with a bottle of palm oil and a box of tissues. Seriously, I've been making jokes about Michael all evening, but it's because of his vision and initiative that this program came together at all. I merely volunteered 10 some odd minutes to give you this spiel, and 15 minutes it took to write it. It's my hope that you'll all donate generously to PILF in spite of this performance. Personally, though, I'm going to save my money. The market isn't so great right now. Hey, everybody, enjoy the show.
Well, my mom's still alive, so that's good. Okay, I survived. Our next guest is performers chilling on sabbatical this semester, but for those lucky 2Ls, you can take his class next year, marijuana law, because I heard he's like the expert at it. So let's hear it up for Professor Bowman.
So it's nice to see many of you for the first time, because I am on sabbatical, hiding away. You know that for us faculty, teaching 2 hours a week is so strenuous that they have to give us a semester off every so often. But don't worry, we're paid, so not that that's a problem at all. Actually, I didn't know, like Michael, that this was going to be a second year. I used all my A material last year, and so I'm actually kind of nervous. Fortunately, I've already seen Michael's parents naked, so that's going to make it a little easier for me. Don't worry, I paid him a lot for the pictures, okay? So. The broken dick stuff he's keeping to himself for a while. I'm not sure I can afford those pictures yet, so I've asked the dean to raise tuition, but he's still working on it. Actually, what I'm really here to do is kind of do what I do for class. I kind of prepare the same way, which means I was blogging until about 30 minutes ago, and then realized I was late, and then raced down here. And the fortunate thing is, Michael assured me that it's really not critical that I'm extra funny. As he explained it to me, you really don't have to be very good at this. You don't have to do it for a very long time. In fact, you can go very quickly. It's the effort that really is appreciated. And I'm like, sounds a lot like my sex life. And so, I think I can handle that. I think that's right. Judge Sark is still here. He is still here. That's very good. I have an inkling I'm going to hear about this one at some later date. But what happens in the William B. Saxby Auditorium stays in the William B. Saxby Auditorium, my own. Well, speaking of my sex life, I think it's valuable to let you know that I'm not just another handsome Jewish face in this cavalcade of loneliness. I was lucky enough to marry a shiksa before she realized all Jewish men end up looking like me. And I'm very fortunate that she had the good sense not to come here tonight, because it's my dying wish to embarrass her at every chance I get. But she is actually much, much better looking than me. And I used this joke last time, but I will use it again. One of the many things that I enjoy about hanging out with my now beautiful wife, not only was my smartness shown by marrying her before I started on my steep decline. Yes, that's right. And believe it or not, ladies, when they're in law school, they're at their best. So either look elsewhere or just know what you're in for, right? And so not only did I have the good sense to marry her then, but she hasn't really aged a day. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary this summer, and I've aged 20 years every day. And so when we're together, people are really impressed. Impressed with me, actually saddened for her situation. But what they're impressed by is they figure she's still with him. That's, man, he must either have a very big bank account or a very big something else. And as I've said in the past, and I'll say it again, my bank account's not very big. And so, now, I know we actually have a professional in the audience here, so I don't want to have to live up to that, but I'll just put it this way. It's not just aggressive masturbation that can lead to broken dicks, so we'll just leave it at that, right? Okay. Now, what I really imagine doing, though, and I should wrap it up for a variety of reasons, because we have actually funny people following me, but I thought it would be valuable, we often talk about this, to model lawyering, to model professionalism, not that we have to know how to do it, that's why we teach in law school, we don't actually know how to do lawyering, but we can pretend like we do in the classroom, and so I want to model lawyering. And the great thing to understand about lawyering is if you're a very good lawyer, you can make an argument from either side. Right? The ability to take any fact and turn it around, show the other side, that's a significant talent, right? And so what I thought I would do to sort of close is a little bit of improv, because I've always been impressed by the people who can do improv. And so what I want people to do is to throw out things they either think are great about law school. I know that won't take very long, but you can get the idea. Things that you think are great about law school, and I'll explain to you why that's really horrible, but what I thought would be a wonderful finishing sentiment is throw out things that you think are horrible about law school. It can be Moritz, or it can be any law school, any part of the experience, and I'll show you quality lawyering by telling you it's something that's very good. So I can give you a couple of examples, right? So maybe you think what's good about law school is you're about to graduate, right? You think that's good, but that means, no, you don't get to take my marijuana reform class, right? So that's, Now maybe you think, no, I'm not going to graduate, and I do get to take your marijuana reform class. No, that's bad, I'm sorry, because no free samples being handed out in the class. So we're actually going to study something. So that's kind of the idea, and I'll do a couple until Michael gets the cane out and pulls me off. But I want to hear, partially because we, of course, get no feedback as faculty. We don't actually read your evaluation. Well, I take it back. We take the funniest parts of the evaluation and we read them in the faculty lounge as we're doing a bonfire and chanting and handing out C's and otherwise enjoying the prospect of what it's costing you to pay for the lighter fluid that we're putting over the evaluations. But let me hear just a couple ideas what you think is either good or bad about law school, and I'm going to showcase really high quality lawyering to tell you why that's not really what it is, it's really something differently. So,
Charlie Wilson.
Charlie Wilson! You have to tell me, do you think that's something good or something bad? 'Cause both! Okay, I enjoy that idea. So, what aspect of Charlie Wilson would you say is something wonderful about being at the Moritz College of Law? His cold calling. I must say I've avoided the experience of the cold calling of Charlie Wilson, but if that's something good, I guess I'm pleased to hear that. I hope that you have discovered that if it's about time for there to be free food at some kind of lunch affair, then he might trample over you if you're spending too long answering his question. And so, you know, now what do you think is bad about Charlie Wilson?
His stretches that he does in class.
His stretches that he does in class. Well, you'll be surprised to know, maybe you've heard this, and it's not a rumor, it's absolutely true. He actually had a heart attack and kept on teaching in class. And so you shouldn't look at the stretches as a bad thing, you should notice it as an opportunity for you to be modeling anti-heart attack, healthy behavior, right? And so again, that's the idea. And I appreciate Charlie Wilson being both, right? It is the cold calling and the stretching, all what make Charlie Wilson a justifiable legendary figure in the history of the Moritz College of Law. Other ideas, good, bad, come on, challenge me. This is what the fun of improv is supposed to be.
Gunners.
What?
Gunners.
Gunners! Gunners! Wow! I have no experience with gunners, because I never like to talk in law school, so you'd be surprised. Well, gunners are great. Do you still play turkey bingo? Is that still a game? I mean, see, this is the problem with the internet. You have Facebook to distract you. You have sending each other emails or whatever it is. Back in my day in the law school, you know, when we were using stone tablets and we actually had to understand what shepherdizing means, we had a game called Turkey Bingo. And Turkey Bingo was one in which you had a little bingo chart with the faces of all your classmates, and the idea... This is happening, see? So in the Turkey Bingo days, of course the good part of gunners is I've been able to tell the story about Turkey Bingo, but what you would get is you would get a little chart, and if you really wanted to challenge yourself, you'd make the bingo chart 5 by 5, but you need a large section by that. Otherwise, you make it 3 by 3, and you get everybody that does the faces differently. And the gunners, of course, are always the free space in the middle, because you know that they're going to be saying something for sure there. And of course, the gunners are great not only because of that, the key to Turkey Bingo. And you got to bring this up, and you got to do in Charlie Wilson's class for sure in order to bring all this together. The key to Turkey Bingo is after you get bingo, you don't win. You have to put your hand up and put bingo in your answer to whatever the question is. And so that will be my closing challenge to all of you. My closing challenge to all of you is, and I say it right here, and I say it right now, and I mean it as a true thing. I promise a job. Woo! I didn't say a paying job, I just said a job. I promise a job for life, helping me out with whatever you want to help me out with, if, but only if, you do, whether it's in Charlie Wilson class or my class or anybody else's class, not only play Turkey Bingo, but not only get bingo in your answer, but get Berman in your answer. So that's my final line. Get bingo and Berman in your answer, and let me know, and I will make it worth your while.
Have the gunners left yet? Our next guest, or performer, I keep messing that up. Hails from the great state of West Virginia. I'm fortunate to call a good friend of mine, Travis Housley.
Oh man, let's get weird. So Michael Abramowitz, I'd say let's give him a big hand, but he's probably not going to hear it if we do. Good guy. You know, I think about all the people that I started out with here 3 years ago. There's 220 of us or so then, fewer now. Rest in peace, Dana Patton, wherever you are. And Mike, you know, started out, I didn't know him that well, but I'd say by now he is at least like my 180th favorite law student. It's only a couple weeks left, but I think if he really works hard, he's going to be able to clear median. What I like about Mike is his tenacity. He's a never say die kind of guy. You know, he started getting my ass about doing this probably back in September or so, and I didn't want to. I mean, it seemed like it was going to be a lot of effort, and I don't really like any people that much. And so every time he'd bring it up, you know, he would say, hey, why don't you do comedy night? And I'd tell him no. Or he would ask me to do comedy night, and I would ignore him, or I'd change the subject, and lay it on, he wore me down. Finally, I did it. And, you know, I really respected his tenacity for being a tenacious guy, and it wasn't, you know, until a little while ago I realized I was just standing to the right of him every time we talked about it. And so it was just sort of like a one-way conversation. Now, actually, I wrote about 4 or 5 more Michael Abramowitz death jokes to do tonight, but I got this rule when it comes to making fun of people with disabilities that I only do it enough so that I feel better about my own life. I mean, anything beyond that would be mean. And so I needed the shot in the arm tonight. Frankly, I'm a little bit nervous. First time I've ever sort of done stand-up or given some kind of a performance. Now, I mean, I get it, right? Like, you see me in the hallway, and I'm like this, like, charming guy possessed of a certain folksy Appalachian panache. I suck the air out of the room when I come in. Charismatic. Humble. But, you know, this is sort of a scary thing, and I was so torn up about this that, you know, I hardly slept last night, and was tossing and turning, and I couldn't eat dinner, which for me, I mean, I got up finally, I got out of bed this morning, I was sort of just shuffling along, and get to the bathroom, I turned on the light, of course, you know, I got like 3 hours of sleep, so the light hurt, and was grumbling and cussing and bitching about Abramowitz. I take a piss, and still I'm like half awake, and I pissed all over the plunger, just feeling bad. Turn around, you know, look in the mirror, splashing water on my face, and say, okay, God damn it, Elsley. You're entirely too good looking to feel this bad about anything. I mentioned humble, right? So, just check my crib sheet here, which it seems unprofessional, but if you've ever had a class with me, you know that just be happy I prepared it all. So anyhow, coming to the end of it, Moritz, which is exciting. Been thinking a lot about back at the beginning of it all, and to be frankly, Moritz was not my first choice. I applied to a lot of other schools. Applied to a lot of top 14 schools. You know, I wanted to do well, but as it turns out, and I thought I had a good chance to get in, but as it turns out, the morbidly obese are not an underrepresented minority. We don't get involved. I should laugh, that's pretty mean. But no, you laugh, but I mean, it's actually pretty tough to be a fat guy in law school. You remember when you first got admitted, and to matriculate, to enroll, you had to put down a seat fee, and they make us pay for 2. there's always like that secret shame of like you come to class 5 minutes late and you gotta sort of do the shuffle into the middle of the row and your guts like hitting the back of people's heads and you get tired of apologizing after a while. I know what you're saying, those of you that know me well. You'd say like, just come to class sometime, honestly. You'll be fine. Fuck that, right? Yeah, I won't even get into like having to fight Wilson over leftovers at a lunch thing. Most times, it's not bad. It'll be like a couple of trays, raise your hand, goes down front, he takes one, everyone else gets the other. But I still have goddamn scars from that time in October of our first year when Federal Society didn't order enough city barbecue. And that guy's like a goddamn tiger. Serious issues that we face as fat people in law school. And I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to form, this year, I wanted to form a fat law society. Talk about our issues. It was going to be like Speak, but we were going to call it Chew. It's good shit. We were going to talk about our issues, like the law of diabetes, OCI attire for the plus size lady. Important stuff, and we would have fit in here. I mean, as much as we fit in anywhere, we would have fit in. This group would have worked. We'd have been the only group that didn't mind how cold it was in Saxby. All of this stuff here. I really thought we were going to do some special work. I filled out all the paperwork and all that shit, and I take it to Chrissy Hyde's house, and she took one look at our proposed pizza budget and laughed me out of her office. But, anyhow, I mean, it's a great school, Moritz. We had great faculty at Moritz. And we're losing Peter Swire. He's a great guy, right? Like nationally known expert on online privacy. Knows all about online privacy. Unsurprisingly, also knows all about internet porn. Like weird shit too, like the kind of shit that if you're going to be into, you've got to be an expert in online privacy. Which, knowing now about this part of the scholarship, I'm really excited for IS's online supplement. But, we have Professor Simmons. He teaches like all kinds of cool shit about evidence. He's hot. We got Professor Rose. He teaches like all kinds of really cool shit about business law. Also hot. We have Professor Quigley. He teaches like that stuff that Professor Quigley teaches. I can't knock on the guy, too much. I never took one of his classes. And it's going to bite me in the ass when I get that Ugandan law question on the Ohio bar. We have to make good programming here at Moritz. Mentoring the Moritz, good programming we got at Moritz. I didn't do it this year because, people know me, I kind of like drag everything out. And by the time I signed up, Noah Litton and Nikki Baczynski's mentoring group had filled up, and I'm not going to settle for second best. But the first year I did it, Angela Henderson, I'm going to give her a shout out. She probably has a million better things to do than being at the law school after 5 o'clock, but really figured stuff out. So you get that form, right? You get up to the mentoring in the morning, you get the form, and it's like, what practice environment do you want to be in? And what type of law do you want to do? And I was like, go to Miss Anderson, and I'm like, look, I don't know what I want to do really. I just got into law school. I know the economy section. I just want to get a job. She does good luck with that. But I didn't know how I was going to get matched up with a mentor. She said, okay, look, we're going to really figure this out. We're going to get you matched up with the right person for you. So I want you to go home. I want you to do a very realistic self-assessment about who you are as a person. Come back tomorrow and talk to me. So I went home. I drank a case of Old Milwaukee. I watched about 7 episodes of the A-Team and passed out. I came back the next day and said, okay, I think I'm ready to talk about this. She said, all right, Mr. Owsley, just tell me a bit about yourself. Okay. I don't like to work hard. I spend a lot of times, fucking around on the internet during class. I don't anticipate that changing in law school. I'm being honest, I'm fairly arrogant. I'm in love with myself. I think I have interesting opinions about things. And, I talk to everybody about my opinions and really think they matter. I know that they don't care, but it doesn't stop me. She said, okay, well, we're going to pair you with a law professor. And so tell me a little bit more. It's like, oh, okay, you know, I love a drink. It's had a certain effect on the waistline. I think I'm funny. 2 times out of 10 or so, I am funny. She says, we've got it. We got this guy, Doug Berg, he teaches criminal law here. You're gonna love it. Yeah, I was really afraid to go one after Berg. He's an amazing guy, great speaker. And I wasn't so much worried that I wasn't going to be that funny, I just thought he was going to use all my time. He edits, in addition to his very widely cited and discussed and bragged about sentencing law, he also is an editor of Law School Innovation. And he's an innovator himself, and most people don't know this, but when he signed his faculty contract with Moritz, he actually became the first professor to ever be paid by the word spoken. It was a new concept. We have great facilities here at Moritz. I'm not going to sell that one, guys. I'm sorry. I went online and I found like all these like great jokes about like shitty buildings and like Wi-Fi that didn't work and asbestos and stuff. But I like tried to print them out in the computer lab, and of course that shit didn't fly. So we'll move on. I knock on Moritz a lot because that's just sort of what I do. But I've had a lot of great experiences here. I've met so many wonderful people since I started law school. Would have been nice if some of them had went to the law school. Bar, casual encounters section of Columbus Craigslist, good, salt of the earth. It's good shit coming up. My wife and I, we got married while I was in law school. We're actually, now the law school's coming to an end. We're like trying really hard to have a kid. Well, I mean, she's trying really hard. I work late most nights. But I'm just playing, guys. She always uses protection when she fucks around with me. She's a Cincinnati girl. We went from Cincinnati. Your town sucks. Like a Brown was saying, I'm from West Virginia, and there's a lot about Cincinnati that makes me homesick when I go down there. In West Virginia we have a lot of hills, and of course Cincinnati is very charming in that regard. And every neighborhood has its own